All in the frame here. So welcome to Tarot Delights. I'm Rhonda from Goddess Garage.
And I'm Kayla from Wayward Spirit.
Yes. And we're talking about the Hanged Man.
Yes.
The Hanging Man, the Hanged Man, depending on your...
The Hanged One.
Yes. Because
And
I've
it's
got...
the energy one. It's like an energy, right? So like anything gendered in tarot is like the energy of male and female and not necessarily the gender of.
Yes. But if anyone should be hung, it should be men.
All right.
There we go.
Out of the gate, I love it.
That's right. So that's the traditional Hanged Man.
This is my updated version.
Oh, okay. And is it called the Hanged Man?
It is called the Hanged Man.
Oh, okay.
I do have one that is called the Hanged One. So this was the Chakra Tarot.
Oh, okay.
So that has it a little more gender neutral.
Right.
And with sacral and heart chakras.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that makes sense. I mean, you're changing your perspective. You're going through the gate because there's the 3 lower chakras that you live in until you're about 7.
Okay.
And then there's a gateway right here. And then you move into your heart chakra when you're about 8, 9, 10 years old. Because you start to develop compassion and empathy and sympathy and that sort of thing.
Ooh,
and you start to move into your upper chakras if you're doing things right.
I would argue that with this generation coming up because there's some kiddos that lack compassion.
And you know, there's some people that don't move out of their lower chakras. And lower doesn't mean less than, it just means they're more your survival chakras.
So unfortunately, due to life circumstances, they've had to live in survival mode, so they haven't necessarily learned how to like get out of their lower chakras.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's just, that's interesting.
Or they're lacking emotional maturity and that sort of thing, right? Now in my working deck, it's called the Hanging Man.
Interesting.
So present tense as opposed to the Hanged Man. And he's all jumbled up there, having some fun.
It is all past tense in mine. Ooh.
And then into tarot, the Training Wheels Tarot, it's a circus performer, but it's got the words on it. That's why I call it with training wheels. And it says new perspective, aha moment, awakening, surrender, empathy, release, let go, allow, yield. And if you're thinking of the more darker side of it, it's resisting surrender, resisting that surrender that you're supposed to do, uncertainty, delay tactics. I've done that. Resist, stalling, lack of focus, and on hold.
Well, I feel like, so I did that for a while with Wayward Spirit because I've had this idea for years. And then I just kind of was like, I don't know how to move forward. So I just kind of sat in that stuck.
Right.
Didn't want to move forward because I didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't really want to take that leap.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I could understand where that shadow side is coming from.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's the duality of every card, right? The Hanged Man or the Hanging Man is about changing your perspective. Because sometimes I flip it and people are like, oh dear, that's not looking great, you know. But I often say he's there on purpose. He's put himself in that spot. It's not that someone strung him up or something like that.
It's having that way of shifting perspective, because sometimes you want something and you're not, so whatever you're doing currently isn't working. So you're going to have to shift your perspective or sacrifice something or shift something that you're doing. So in that, you're putting yourself in the position of the Hanged One in a perspective shift to see if you can get yourself out of that rut of being stuck.
Absolutely. And sometimes, you know, we always hear release, let go, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes you need to make the shift in order for the release to happen.
Yep.
Because sometimes it will just naturally happen. Because I was just reading in my book of fairy tales. So it's Jack and the Beanstalk.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's the Hanged Man equivalent. And what I liked in this was it said, well, the traditional meaning, we see a man perhaps suspended, perhaps a suspended magician, they say.
Ooh.
Yes. Willingly and quite happily hanging upside down from the tree of life. He has reversed his position in order to gain new perspective on life, to surrender the old ways to a higher calling, to put an ear to the earth, so to speak, and listen to the intuitive message of Mother Earth, our higher self. Symbolically, when receiving this card in a session, one has emptied out the pockets of the past. I like that because, of course, when you flip upside down, your pockets become empty.
Yeah,
right?
you're like, you can't hang on to anything.
Yeah,
'Cause you're
exactly.
like, whoop.
Exactly. So it's sometimes in the shift that the release happens, right? And
That's interesting.
yeah, so I love that. Emptying out the pockets of the past and learning through the will of the higher self to be perspective or perceptive of what is yet to come. Most importantly, it must be noted that the individual is choosing this new position in life and is learning the true meaning of sacrifice, which you just mentioned, which is to make life sacred.
Interesting phrasing there.
Yeah, I really like that. So the lore of it is the tale of Jack and the Beanstalk. The number 3 comes into it a lot, right? Because there's the 3 beans. He goes up the beanstalk 3 times in the original one. And it's an intellectual decision for Jack to exchange the family cow for 3 magic beans. However, if we ignore the logic and rationale reality, the planet Neptune actually rules the Hanged One, or Jack and the Beanstalk, because on Neptune is the planet of dreams, where your dreams lie. But Neptune also, scientifically speaking, it rains diamonds
Oh.
on Neptune.
Like actual diamonds?
Like actual diamonds, because the
know that.
gravity or something is so hard
Densely
and
compact that it...
by the time a
Oh.
raindrop hits the planet, it's a diamond. So it's,
Yeah, we could never live there. We
yeah.
would be squished instantly.
I mean, as great as it would be to get diamonds every time it rains, you would be killed.
You're like, all right, we're here to mine diamonds. Oh, we made a bad choice.
Exactly. We'd have to have really, really hard rain hats.
And oxygen galore, because I don't think you'd have any
Yeah.
oxygen on Neptune.
Yeah, exactly. But it opens us to unseen miracles of life's journey when we can understand that Jack chose to receive the 3 seeds from the stranger. In fairy tale lore, many tests and initiations are offered in the power of 3. Jack is offered a test from the Queen of Heaven, which is the Empress, and they mentioned, Jack is the magician, right? So the Empress, which is number 3, to see if he can surrender himself to a higher destiny. Attachment to earthly resolutions could only further the family's poverty. Jack reversed his logic and united with his higher imagination. His mother's anger as she tosses the beans out the window represents our earthly fear and the material attachments that can blind us from cosmic timing and miracle. In the night, representing the dream weaving time of the unconscious, the giant stalk has grown, representing the umbilical cord between heaven and earth.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know, right? Adds so many layers to Jack and the Beanstalk.
Yeah, like my brain just went to like 3 different conversations we could have.
This cord becomes the conduit by which Jack may retrieve the original treasures of his own soul, his father's riches, and the chance to start life anew. This gift is granted due to the fact that Jack surrendered to the conditions of his life. He trusted the changes that were fated to take place due to the arrangement or agreement to trade the family cow, the material world, and attachments for 3 magical seeds representing the potential for new growth and abundance. Because a lot of times when we make a shift that is the betterment for ourselves, a lot of people will go, why are you doing that? Like you shouldn't do this, you should do that. They should us to death often a lot. So questions when this card comes up that I liked was, what am I being asked to surrender or let go of? Like, what do I have to empty out of my pockets? Am I overly attached to my material world? And do I trust the process of letting go?
So if you had asked me that last question probably about 6 years ago, I would be like, no, I'm good. Now that things have shifted a bit, and I'm like, okay, we got to learn to trust the process. I'm a little more faithful in trusting the process.
Right.
But I was darn stuck in that, like, but I'm good.
Right.
I don't need to go.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. But it is really hard because it's out of your comfort zone, like that W do, W know, or W don't.
Yes.
And I'm saying devil metaphorically.
Yes,
like,
of course. I
the
know
whole
that.
world didn't come crashing down because I didn't make a choice. But I found that one really interesting.
So yeah, I mean, the hangman already had a lot of layers to
Yep.
him. You know, it's not you're being strung up or you're making a mistake. Or sometimes when I first learned this card, the question I would ask is, have you found life to be discombobulating? Have you been finding you're confused a lot? Because a lot of the times when we are making this transition that we don't realize we're even making, we do feel confused. We do start to second guess ourselves and think maybe I am just being an idiot and flopping upside down for no reason.
Well, I feel like there's. I know people hate the term, like, everything happens for a reason, but what has been making its rounds on Facebook, and it happened to me last week, I forgot something in the house. And I've learned a long time ago that if the world is like, you forgot this, go back for it. Stay there for a couple of minutes, because you're supposed to be there.
Right.
It's preventing you from encountering something else. And that was making its round on Facebook, that if you forget your keys or if you forget whatever you need, stay there for a couple of minutes. The universe is taking care of you. So I feel like with perspective shifts, they're supposed to happen. We just don't always like the timing, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't make
well,
sense for
either
us.
we want to rush it or
Yep.
we resist it.
Yeah, and then it doesn't work the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't flow the same. You gotta let it flow.
It's like, I'm not ready. Yes, you are,
Yep.
because it's happening, right? But yeah, like you say, I mean, listen, be a little more open. And that's part of what this is being open and having that trust and that surrender to the universe, right? I mean, that has literally happened where I've had to go back to my house because I forgot something and I'm all mad at myself and I'm frustrated and I'm
Yep.
like, oh, this day's not going great because I'm going to be late. And then I drive by an accident and it's like, but for
That
the
could've
grace
been me.
of God,
Yep.
there go I, you know,
Yep.
kind of thing. So the angels of the universe, whoever you want to believe it was, held me back for a reason. And like you say, it's probably for a reason, right? And it's not to say every time you forget your keys, if you're doing it 5 times a week, you know, figure your shit out. But
Put them in the spot where you're not gonna forget them.
yeah, exactly.
'Cause
But if
holy
it's
crap.
once in a while,
Yep.
take a beat, take a breath, and go, this is happening for a reason.
Well, I try to take that perspective too if there's a lot of traffic and I need to get somewhere and it's like things are slowing down and I'm
Yeah.
not getting anywhere anytime soon. I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to get there when I'm supposed to get there. And I've really tried to let that go because I have like serious anxiety about being late,
Right.
but I can't handle my crap in traffic. I'm like,
Yeah.
internally lose it, but externally I'm pretty good. But like, I just,
No, but even inside, that creates turmoil.
Yeah.
And, you know, that has an effect on your spirit, on your body, on your mind.
blood pressure.
Blood pressure, you know, all these kind of things. And it's funny that you say that because I just had a couple of readings with a couple of lovely ladies today. And one of them was making a big decision about allowing someone back into their lives.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the whole time that she's talking, I'm watching for her. Just want to make sure that's not slowing things down for us. I'm watching her talk.
Okay.
And every time she talks about this friend, she either does this or she does this.
Oh, and you've talked about that, like your body's a natural pendulum,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, like, if
Your
you're
body's a
interested-
natural truth teller.
truth teller, sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm not correcting you. It's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I like that fact. So, like, I'm interested in what we're saying, so I'm leaning into things. But as you were saying with that individual talking about that person that she wanted to let back in, and you were saying she was leaning back, that's really telling.
Yeah, very, very telling. So it's like, it was interesting because her friend, when I pointed it out, her friend is like, yeah, you are leaning back every time you talk about this person. And, you know, it's like, well, your body the cool thing about your body is it can't lie to us, right? And your body will always, always tell the truth. And one of the things I tell clients a lot is if you have a big decision, talk about it in the mirror. If it's like an A and B choice or whatever, talk about choice A. Watch yourself as you're talking. Are your eyes getting bigger? Are you smiling a little bit? Are you
that's
leaning
interesting.
in? Are you doing head nods, things like that? And then talk about choice B, and let's say that's not the one for you. Are you leaning back? Are you not as enthusiastic? Does your speaking become a little slower, a little duller? Are you not smiling as much? Are your eyes kind of down or, not looking directly at you? Because those are all telltale signs, and your body will never lie to you about what's right for you. Our minds can lie, absolutely.
totally.
And our mouth is connected to our mind. Our mind controls our mouth.
Well, and it's interesting too because you can convince yourself. You can use your brain and your mind and convince yourself of something. Your body will never lie to you because if you've made the wrong choice and you try to move forward with the wrong choice, I've done this. I don't remember in what context, but I've done this multiple times. And your body's like, "Nuh-uh, we're not handling this well." And then I'll slowly either get sick, anxiety will spike, I'll start just acting irrationally for what's normal for me, like forgetting things like that.
Yeah.
And then I have to go, oh, is this my body trying to tell me I made the wrong choice?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I need to rethink things. And normally for these like bigger decisions, I've always had like a period of like a way out of it almost. Like it wasn't like a job that I couldn't get out of or like school. Like there's always been like a cooling off period. So it's like I can kind of backtrack my way.
Yeah.
School actually for me.
Right.
I tried to go back to school post-COVID, during COVID.
During COVID, because I remember you going back.
And it didn't work out.
Yeah. I remember you coming in and going, yeah, that's not meant for me.
Nope. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't finish it. And that's really okay because my body was like, that's not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be doing the job you're doing and doing this stuff. And like, and I was trying to be like, no, I need to be over here. The universe was like, no. Over here's good. Stay here.
Right,
Yep.
right. Yeah, yeah. And we're all, guilty of it. I mean, I've done stuff where it's like, oh, right when I'm supposed to be doing it or whatever, I suddenly get sick. And it's like, oh, okay. Now looking back on it, I can say, oh, that was my body's way of saying this wasn't right for you.
Yep.
So,
But
and we try to put our fingers in a lot of pies, And
And sometimes your body goes, too many.
yeah, yeah. Because, like, a lot of people are givers, right? And they want to help people out. But really, they think they're givers who want to help people out. And realistically, you're actually a fixer.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, often you are because your ego's in there, right? When you're a fixer, that's an ego thing as opposed to a helper. Now, fixers often get exhausted because they're spreading themselves too thin. They have a hard time saying no, so they say yes to everybody. But also their ego's playing into it. Well, you could help this person because you know how to do this. And you can help this person because you know exactly what they're going through.
Yep.
But you can't help everybody. And realistically, everybody, you can guide, you can advise,
But people
but you
have to
can't
find...
do or fix.
Yeah, people have to be led kind of within themselves, and like even if they're looking for answers that you possibly could have, they almost need to figure it out for themselves. So you could like help them. It's like the whole you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Yeah. Or it's like, your mom could tell you something 10 times and you'll come home and go, my best friend just said this and that was really smart of them. And your mother's going, oh my God, I told you that like a million times.
Yep. Yep. And it's true because people do, like people around you probably know what's best for you more than you do because they actually have an outside perspective and they're not like in it all everywhere. And sometimes it just takes that extra outside perspective. And then your body kind of goes, oh yeah.
Yeah. And you have to be willing to hear it and listen to it and then act on it. Right.
That's a whole, those are three different things.
Those are
Hearing
three
it,
different things. Yeah.
listening to it and acting on it. Because you can hear it and listen to it, but acting on it could be very hard. Or
See,
you-
because I love my job because people are always asking me to guide them, which sometimes feeds my ego, I will admit. But also, too, I know they're coming to me on purpose, asking for advice. I'm not just handing out advice, going, you know how to do this. It's, kind of thing. And they're putting money in the game. So they got skin in the game, right?
Well, and you've always said, like, skin in the game makes people pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
They won't dismiss it quite as easily. And maybe their partner or their parents or their friends have told them the same thing I've told them a million times.
And it just takes that extra outside perspective.
Yeah. And, if it means a shift in, your life, and so it's better, more successful, happier, or a shift in your spiritual outlook so that you're more at peace and your well-being is better, it's worth the money.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because I'm often told, don't give advice unsolicited. And I like that. There's a saying around it. I can't remember what it is, but it's like that does make sense. Like, who are you to poke your nose into someone?
Well, and that's it. And there's a difference between someone kind of checking in with you or like, hey, let's sit down and have coffee. So ultimately, when my friends and I sit down and have coffee, we'll talk about things to each other. But a lot of what we've done recently is like, do you want advice for this, or do you want me to just listen?
Oh, nice. I like that. You're giving them the choice.
So it's like, do you
want me to bite you or not? From our earlier Facebook
exactly. So if you were on Facebook earlier, we were talking about one of your beautiful necklaces, and it looks like someone got bit.
Yes.
And blood dripping.
Yes.
And then
blood dripping necklace.
Yes.
Here it is. There we go.
And you were asking if I had the choice, would I let a vampire bite me? So it's like, and choice is paramount there, because most times they don't take the choice.
No.
And so it was an interesting little tidbit of conversation, but it also comes back to like giving advice and wanting to help people. You have to be invited.
Yeah, because sometimes, they, like you say, they want someone to like tell me what you think, tell me your opinion, what advice you have. And sometimes you just need to be that compassionate witness.
Yep.
And that's the listening part, which is very hard for a lot of people, and especially if they're just venting about something and you're like, oh my God, I could tell you something about this. Even if it's your friend who says...
I had a friend of mine in college. We don't speak anymore just because we don't run in the same circles anymore. We would have the same conversation every 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, are you going to do something about this, or you just want to talk about it? Like,
yeah.
And they're like, oh, I don't know. And it was the same conversation. I'm like, you realize... And it went on for like 2 years.
Wow.
And I was like, do you realize we have the same conversation once every about 6 months? We find each other somehow. Like, we ran in the same places because we were both going to college at the same time. And near the end, I was like, we've had this conversation 4 other times. Have you done something about it?
Yeah, because now she's just rehashing.
Yeah.
And that's not good either, because then
you're just living in it and you're not doing anything about it.
You're stuck.
And then, you're stuck. And we don't want you to be stuck.
That's when you need the hanging man.
You want that perspective shift so you can move forward.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he's all about changing your perspective, sort of walk a mile in someone else's shoes, because again, challenging your truths and your beliefs. A lot of times when this comes up, I often ask someone, when's the last time you challenged a truth or belief, or what is being pushed against you that you're feeling defensive about? And maybe it's a truth or belief that you need to revisit.
Well, I mean, I feel like we get too comfy. Some people get too comfy. I'm trying to think of the last time someone's challenged my belief in something.
Well, like, for instance, if you're an empath and you're sensitive, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll get these empaths that come in and go, oh, I'm so sensitive, I can't even go shopping because the crowds are just, and I get it. Like, sometimes there's
for sure
waves where it's like too much, but when's the last time you challenged it?
But I think that's...
Because as an empath, some of your responsibility, very much like the Hermit card, is to be able to provide light for people. And you need to sort of, buck up a little bit and make yourself stronger.
So it's interesting that you say that, because like I wouldn't necessarily call myself an empath, but I have high anxiety in crowds unless I have a purpose. So like I work at an arena where for concerts there's large crowds, but I'm there to do a job.
Yeah.
So if you give me a purpose, I'm fine. You could put me in the middle of that crowd and I'd be fine for the whole shift. If I don't have a purpose, I lose my mind.
So always give yourself a purpose then.
And that's what I used to do before I used to work there. I used to do photography. So
Oh,
I
okay.
would do a lot of photography from the crowds and stuff because I at first I didn't have media passes, and then that started to be a thing too. So like that's how I kind of got into the media pass and like reporting on bands and stuff. It's because I needed a purpose in order to be there, so I didn't freak out. And that was anxiety based, but I feel like
But even anxiety, you need to challenge.
oh, for sure. But I've done that from day one. So when people tell me, they're like, "Oh, I can't do this and I can't do that," and it's like, why not? I know I know it's gonna suck, and I know it's gonna be hard for the first little bit, but you need to challenge those things.
Absolutely. And I know it sounds like we're being mean and tough love.
Yes, it does. It does sound like we're being mean and tough love, but I've lived and walked this for years.
Yeah,
and it's
and
been beneficial.
I
have
got to the
nothing-
point of having agoraphobia. And I had to challenge that. I lost 2 jobs because of my agoraphobia. But I had to learn, like, you have to learn how to function. And I'm not saying that, it's going to be a long journey. And, I'm not saying that, it's going to take baby steps, right? Like, when I first realized and was diagnosed with agoraphobia, I realized I had to baby step my way back out into the world.
Yeah, that'd be fair.
So one of the baby steps was all you have to do is get in the car. And then once you're in the car, you don't have to start it up. You
Yeah.
don't have to go anywhere. You can just go back in the house.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes just getting in the car brought up all my fear, my anxiety.
And that's it. Like, that makes sense because and baby steps would help you. Like, even before COVID, I couldn't go grocery shopping.
Right.
I still have issues unless I'm like, I need this or I'm not going to eat tomorrow. Then I will go grocery shopping. But if it wasn't for that, like, you're not going to eat tomorrow, I wouldn't go grocery shopping.
Yeah, and but the thing is, like, you know you can do it because you've done it.
Yep.
So now it's just playing with your mind
Yep.
of, okay, we can do this because we've done this before. Here's the purpose of this time.
If I get everything on the list, I get a little treat. And that's what gets me through.
Yeah, bribery works.
Yes.
Trust me.
Oh my gosh. 100%.
And like my agoraphobia really reared its head after COVID.
I can imagine, yeah.
Because after the lockdowns, I got comfy at home again, and my
Yeah, you don't
agoraphobic
need to go,
self went, yeah, we're happy here.
Meanwhile, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, even at the arena and the crowds and stuff, we had been away from the crowds for so long. And I'm like, oh, can I do this?
Yeah.
But the first big concert, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I was working it. I think we went and saw July Talk at the Grand Theater.
Oh, okay.
And Josh and I were both like, and it was sold out. So there was like no escaping it.
Right.
And it was a bit better. Like there were people that were like, hey, keep your masks on. And it's not even about that, but it was just getting ourselves acclimatized back into being into crowds.
Yeah. Well, even the first time I went to the bank after the lockdowns were opened up again, I'm like, how do we do that? Like, because rarely do I go into the teller unless I have to, but there are some things you do need an actual person to do for you. And the first time I went in there, I wasn't anxiety. It was just like, how do I speak to people again?
Well, that's it. If you hadn't worked, like if you weren't essential, so schools, hospitals, whatever, you didn't have to talk to people for like 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's like you do forget how to interact with people.
Yeah.
Or I know a coworker of mine, she told me this story a while ago, but we were still wearing masks, like, because we were in and out of lockdowns with the kiddos at school. And she had to relearn how to poker face.
Oh.
When a kid would like say something,
Right.
and
I had a teacher say that too.
because she could laugh or she could be cheeky
Behind the
behind the
mask.
mask.
Yes.
And then when we take them off, you're like, oh, I gotta watch myself.
Yeah, exactly. This bottom part of my face does have expression too. Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
That's too funny. But I do like when the hangman does show up because again, it does mean that challenging times are probably coming up. But so is growth, so is reward. Changing your perspective a lot of times is to your own benefit.
Oh, for sure. And I think it would ultimately be for your own benefit because like your majors are big life swings and changes, but ultimately,
Yeah, I suppose it's not. Change your perspective so life gets better or life gets worse. I mean, it's like it would be.
But like I feel like if this card came up and for some reason you didn't listen, like it's not like life would go horribly wrong. You would just stay stuck.
you would stay stuck, which does mean life would go horribly, horribly wrong.
All right. So I was trying to ease my way into that.
Especially because it's a major arcana.
And that's true because it's a major. But it's basically saying, like, hey, let's not stay stuck because life's not going to be cool or fun
Yeah,
or
yeah.
enjoyable
Yeah.
if you stay stuck.
Yeah, just
So-
be open. Try to be more open. That's the first step.
Yep.
Be more open. What's getting pushed against you? What are you feeling defensive about? You know, challenge some of your truths and beliefs. You know, like, you know, some people are just like, oh, I believe this about myself, so I'm always like this. And usually it's a behavior thing, right?
Yep.
So it's like, no, you don't always have to be like that, right?
Well, and I mean, so for example, for myself, I have really high negative self-talk. So it took me, and that just means I bully myself in my own brain. And so it took me a long time to be a positive person.
Yeah. And it's funny how that comes back around because I just was dealing with that, not this last week, but the week before.
Oh, yeah?
Because, you know, I've released a lot of weight. And I started with love of myself.
Good.
I have gained back a couple of pounds.
But I still love you. We still love.
I know, but I caught myself beating myself up.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, whoa, hang on, Rhonda, what are you doing? You know, this isn't love. This
No.
isn't acceptance, you know? And I went into my doctor today and I was back down, so that's good. But, you know, he wants me to continue. As I've told you, he hasn't been that encouraging as far as, like, it's great that you've lost like this way, but you need to lose so much more.
Yep.
Like,
Well, doctors aren't.
praise me for what I've done, please.
As much as doctors are supposed to be compassionate, some bedside manners are better than others.
He does pat me every time I leave. He's like, have a good day. I'm like, okay, are you uncomfortable in this physical interaction here?
Oh, half of me wants to ask a question. I'm going to leave that till later. Oh. I think, well, and it's interesting too because it male doctor, right?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, that says half of it right there.
Yes.
Because I've also had male doctors go, well,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a lovely person.
I'm sure,
But,
just doesn't know how to talk to
yeah.
women.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my goodness, I can attest to that.
And, you know, not everything is solved by weight loss
No.
or weight reduction.
Well, I feel like it can be a focus. And it's like that perspective shift. You can change your perspective and you want to focus on weight shifting and like decreasing your weight. Or like, let's put it on me, on my weight, because that's a thing I need to do too. But it can't be your only focus because then it becomes obsessive and then that just opens up a whole world of not good
And it
things.
really opens up a lot of guilt and, like I said, catching yourself with that negative talk, right?
Yeah.
So my weight was back down to where it was, but my sugars were up
yes.
because I'm diabetic as well. So last time I went to see him, my sugars were down. He's like, oh, I like that the line is going down, right? And my weight was down and my blood pressure's in the right range and all that kind of
Good.
stuff. However, I know when I was beating myself up, I was probably making not the best choices for myself as far as food goes because it becomes that vicious cycle of am I emotionally eating and that sort of thing. So I really had to sort of stop myself because I'm much more aware of it now. So it doesn't cycle down
The same road as far, right?
Yeah.
Like you were saying, once upon a time, I went down a very dark road. And then you and I have talked a lot. So like we've stopped it at this gate and then I don't go past that gate. So it's like
Right.
I don't sit in
because
that
you
same
recognize
darkness.
it at gate 6 as opposed to gate 1,
Yes.
which is at the bottom, right?
Yeah. So let's not go down to the black hole that is gate 1.
Yeah.
But we've built in gates that then we recognize it and then we're not going to go back all the way to 1. We're going to go to 6 and maybe 7. And then maybe
Right.
the next time we go in we go to 7 and not 6.
Yeah.
So there's ways you can build things into your life and I know a lot of society has a tendency to guilt people, especially around their weight and especially around how they look. And it shouldn't be that way.
And there's success levels and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. There's so much guilt.
all these markers that are really arbitrary.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I always admire people who are their own person and just do what they want. And I mean that within the laws of the world kind of thing, obviously.
Yeah, there's ways
But,
we need to
like my granddaughter Annabelle, I know is going to be one of those people that just she's her own person and she knows exactly what she wants and she's going to take it.
Yep. And Catherine's gonna have so much fun when she becomes a teenager.
That's right. That's right. Well, Lucy's the social one.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, yes. So in kindergarten, Lucy had a friend who was in grade 8.
What?
And they would talk through the fence, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
Lucy's very social, and she, she's, now going through that boy stage a little bit. The first
boy
wave of
stage.
the
The
boys.
first of many.
Yes, exactly. So Lucy, I know, will be a handful socially speaking, but her grandmother, not me, her other grandmother, Gagoma, I think, is the or the Zulu word for grandmother.
Okay, nice. I learned something today.
Yes, Gagoma. So her Gagoma and her father are both, like, you can't walk down the streets of Kingston with either one of them without 10 people saying, hey, hey, hey,
Very social, yep.
Yeah, everyone knows
I think
them.
that's why I ended so well at CFRC. So I was at CFRC at the same time he was.
Okay.
And like we chatted up.
That's weird that you and I didn't cross paths before then, because I was the fundraiser.
Really?
For CFRC.
Like when Ayenda was there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't cross paths.
Yeah.
I think I was
Because I raised the most money they had ever seen. You should see the reference letter I have in
Oh,
my
that's fantastic.
resume.
I
She couldn't praise me enough.
I think I was trying to get in because like I had Canadian Taps. I at one point ran a promotions team for independent musicians, and then I was trying to get my interviews out to a wider audience so that I would talk to CFRC, and I did a couple of interviews for them, like specifically like they set up the interviews, and then most of them were just like, oh, here, do you want to play this?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then at one point when I had a radio show, Amherst Island, we would syndicate it to CFRC.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you had a radio show there. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Podcasts are so much less stressful.
Yeah. I'll bet.
It's like, oh gosh, did we hit the right button? Are the
Yeah.
mics off? Huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hot mic.
Yep. You gotta wonder what you're talking about. People can hear you.
Exactly.
Oh man, that seems like another lifetime.
Yeah, right?
Like, that's like 10
I
plus years
had
ago.
a lot of the DJs, radio DJs in Kingston coming to see me when I had my spa and salon.
Yeah.
And it was great. I loved having them in. Like, I'd go in and see them in their studios every once in a while. It was very cool, or at least I thought it was.
Well, I mean, it's like that behind, like Wizard of Oz behind the curtain almost, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like you hear them on the radio every morning, but you don't get to see them.
Yeah.
So it's like listening to the podcast, but not having the YouTube feature of being able to see people.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the and like for years that was me. I was like, what is this behind this? Like, what is the radio thing? And like after I've done it, I'm like, so anytime people have tech issues in radio, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's going on.
yeah, exactly right. Or you get those gasps when there's dead air, and it's like, oh dear, someone's
Who
not
forgot
watching.
to push something?
Yeah, exactly.
Someone forgot to put it on automatic before they left the studio.
Exactly. So yeah, those were fun days. Although I think radio's starting to die.
I know we've had some restructuring with Chorus, and I think they lost. Did they lose CKWS?
I think so, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, like
I
if
think
we're-
it's now
we
like
might be wrong.
it's part of a parent company that just sends down.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
stuff down the
I
pipe
am
or whatever.
all for local news, local radio.
Yeah, we're losing a lot of that because I mean with the streaming
Yeah.
things now, like the last time I even watched local news, I couldn't tell you.
I just avoid the news at all costs. Like,
I
it's
usually avoid it too because I mean it's full of gloom and doom
It's
and
a little depressing.
it can be, and they think that's what sells, so that's what they put on there.
Yes.
You don't get
But
the many
also-
squirrels doing water skiing tricks.
The Budger. Sorry, I had a Harry Potter thought for a second.
That would be cool. Newspapers would totally come back if they were moving
Yes,
newspapers.
if they were moving newspapers, people would be like, "No, who got arrested and how did they?" Because they would have the picture, and it'd be amazing.
I suppose that's also called iPads, but
Yeah, we're
It's cooler in the Harry Potter version of it.
well. I think the reason why they're low tech with magic is because magic screws with tech, and then it kind of becomes AI-ish,
yeah,
and then
that's
that's
true.
just scary in and of itself.
Well, magic is really science unexplained. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yep,
'Cause
I would agree with that.
If you went back to medieval times with a Bic lighter, you would be considered the greatest wizard ever.
Or you'd be burned at the stake.
Or you'd be burned at the stake, yes.
Because they'd be like, "Oh, I can't figure it out. What did you
Or
do?"
even a ballpoint pen.
Yes, because like you used to have to dip in and cursive write, and
Yeah.
even cursive writing now. People would be like, "What magic is this?"
Yes, yes. Although they've reintroduced it. Just this year.
We have kids who
into
can't even
school.
pay attention through like lessons. You think they can pay attention to cursive write? Like, let's solve the attention issue before. Don't get me wrong. I know cursive writing is important. I know we need it to write documents. I grew up with it, and now I have this like hybrid to the point where I have to, when I'm writing things for kids to spell, I have to be conscious and be like, you need to print your letters, Kayla, or they're not going to read it.
Right. Although I was looking forward to having the ability to have a secret code.
Yes, I think we still will.
Yeah, we probably will to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like I think it's just now being reintroduced.
So an
into our
entire
schools.
generation went without
Yeah.
it. That's nuts.
So the millennials, because that's what you are, right? Mm-hmm. Will be able to understand it, and then the X generation might not be able to, and the generation after that, whatever they call themselves,
So there's
Gen Z. I mean Gen Z. Sorry.
so there's millennials, Gen Z, and Alpha. Alpha's getting it now, I think.
Oh, that's what they're calling themselves, Alpha.
Yeah, well, Gen Z, and then you start again at A, so Gen Alpha.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
We could have an entire podcast just on generations and how
But
we
how do
interpret things.
baby boomers fit into this whole alphabetical?
Baby boomers are like, oh.
A-
before-
a thing onto their
I'm a
themselves.
millennial.
Yeah.
Before millennial, you have Gen X.
Yeah, I'm on the cusp of baby boomer, Gen X.
So then you have boomer. So it goes boomer, Gen X, millennial.
Right.
And
okay.
sometimes, depending on what reference textbook you go to, because there was a lot of a tech shift between Gen X and millennial, there's a Gen Y.
Oh, a Gen Y. And sometimes Y.
And sometimes Y. Oh, I wonder how tarot would be influenced by, like, if we did, like, some readings based on, this is what card represents this generation. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be hard, too, because, like, these are, dated back to the 1400s that really haven't changed a lot.
But I would say if you took characteristics and we could predetermine what generation has what characteristics.
Yeah.
And then you could match up what card matches based on those characteristics. I think you would have to flow it that way.
Yeah.
Because then it would be too encompassing otherwise.
Yeah. That's an interesting take.
That's an idea.
Yeah, interesting take. There's Pamela Smith's signature.
Oh, is that her signature?
Mm-hmm.
I
She
always
signed
thought
them
that
all.
was, I don't know what I thought that was.
Yeah, she signed them all, I believe. Yep, there she is right there.
Because it
The
actually
one that
reminds
didn't
me of like
get
one of the
any
rich
credit. There's her signature right there.
on all the cards and got no credit.
Yep. She got paid to do the paintings, but she was not allowed to talk about it. She had an NDA contract. Meanwhile, Wade and Ryder were both allowed to talk about it and got paid to do seminars and
And
whatnot.
what are the significance of the yellow shoes? I just realized he had yellow shoes on.
Yeah, yellow shoes. Well, I know he's got the halo around him because it's about, that
Enlightened.
enlightenment of yourself. He's got the red pants and
Yeah.
a red belt.
So one of them has the red. So I have to go through this deck because there's certain cards that are dressed in red. So she looks almost like the Empress.
Yeah.
And then this one I think has a red belt or red
Oh, yes.
in the corset.
Yeah.
So there's that knowledge base of perspective.
Yeah, yellow. I wonder if that's like the solar plexus or something.
Oh, maybe. Oh, yeah, because we have the solar plexus and the heart chakra.
There you go. Yeah, so maybe it's listening
Ooh,
to your
there you go.
gut and also getting the enlightenment of
Yeah.
of the
I was gonna say, 'cause
third eye.
this guy doesn't have, his shoes aren't different colors. But he
No.
does have the red shirt.
He's got the lumberjack.
It's got the lumberjack feeling going.
Yeah, lumberjack knowledge.
I love it. I almost wonder if these are the, like, obviously the high priestess has the dark and the light tree,
Oh, yes.
but it's like
yep.
if the sun was shining.
But that's interesting. Those are mushrooms, but they're oak leaves.
Yeah.
So they're two oak trees coming together.
Interesting.
Oak trees take 300 years to grow, 300 years to live, and 300 years to die. There's an oak tree that's down in the States that was around, it was around the area where they signed the Declaration of Independence. It's still there.
Wow.
Yeah, they live a long time. And they just start out as little acorns.
Little acorns. Every
Yep.
time I pick up an acorn, I'm like, you could have been a giant oak tree.
Yep, exactly. Takes a while to grow, though.
Yes. And then the world unfortunately moves at such a pace that it doesn't get to grow most days.
I know, I always weep when I see trees being cut down because there always seems, again, that's a sweeping statement, but like it seems like you haven't even let this tree come to full potential yet. But I do like that I'm seeing more and more trees planted around the city.
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot more trees that are freshly planted. Hopefully they'll be allowed to bloom and grow and, change their leaves and
I love
all the stuff that they
one
do.
thing the school board or whoever was doing the architecture or zoning. Whoever higher ups that decided that the schoolyards needed trees, yes, please. Because there
Yeah.
are some really cool. I've been to a number of schools this year, and most of them have some pretty good trees on there.
Nice.
Some of them have actual forests that I'm
Oh.
like, yes, please.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I
Or
love
little
that.
groves, or like,
Yeah.
they're getting better about like including outdoor classrooms, and obviously like
Plus, it provides sun protection too when you're outside, right? You can't
Yep.
just stand in a field and have all the little marshmallows burn.
depend on the school you go to. Some of them are more shaded than others.
Because I always tell my son, like you know him, he's a great big 6'2" redhead. He's embraced the Irish side of himself, and of course he's pale. He's white, right? And when he was a little kid, I was very protective
For
of him.
sure.
I'm like, you don't put marshmallows in the sun; they burn.
Yep.
So.
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna so use that. That is
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, it's like, don't burn my marshmallow. But anyways, on that note, I think we've covered the hanging man
I
or
think we-
hanged man, however you want to, the
Yeah.
hanged
The
one.
hanged one.
Yeah, so hopefully when you pull your card, if you get the hanged one, you'll know that it's time to change perspective in some way and be open to it. Be excited about a change that is happening because we're often resistant to change. So I hope you have a great week.
Yes, and we will be back next week.
Yes, next week, next Monday, hopefully.
Yep.
We try to do it Mondays. If we don't, we try to do it on another day. We try to find another day for it.
Yeah.
But please like this video, subscribe to our channel, find us on Facebook. You can find Kayla at Wayward Spirit.
Yes.
You can find me and her at Goddess Garage. Just type in Goddess Garage and it'll all come up for you. Ring the little fairy bell so you know when these videos are happening. And we're hoping to do other delights at some point too.
Yes. We'll have to.
We've done
plug that-
one.
We'll have to plug that in there.
Yes, exactly. So we'll figure it out. Thank you for bearing with us through all our bumps and whatnot.
We're slowly getting there.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Have a great week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.